Come out to play, Warriors. Come out to play. Hello, everyone. It's Charlton. Please subscribe to my channel and tap the notification bell. I'd appreciate it majorly. So, this Drudge has got the main headline over about that the writer of the book Anonymous basically claims that Pence would be willing to sign like a 25th Amendment, whatever. I'm here to tell you, I claimed in a previous, very recent video that and it's just theoretical. I don't know. But that the author of this book and also the New York Times article is Andrew McCabe. I'm here to tell you that I still believe that even more, definitely, that it is McCabe. I do think that. And book Bombshell Pence would support Trump removal of fake news, Drudge report. Well, I think the Washington Examiner spoke to the vice president's office, and they basically said it's fake news. So, and it's the Huffington Post. It's their article. They received some excerpts or something from the book, and they know who the author is, I believe, because it says that they agreed to a condition of anonymity, but they also agreed to not quote the book. But that's primarily what the article's about. Is that particular aspect of the book. And I was looking through various things just to see if I'm right about McCabe. It's funny too, dude. It's funny because right before I made this video, and I look at quite a bit, just looking through stuff. Right before I made this video, all the way at the bottom of this book, it talks about, I forgot about this, that Rosenstein was the one who originally was sort of, I think he haphazardly was joking about, that, and that became a news story. And McCabe was asked about it later in a CBS, 60 Minutes interview. Months later, an interview with CBS Magazine, 60 Minutes, acting FBI Director Andrew McCabe was later fired by President and remains the target of federal criminal investigation. Confirmed that Rosenstein had discussed the idea of invoking the 25th Amendment with cabinet members, whatever. So I think that indictment's not happening too. I was looking into that as well. That basically, which gave McCabe, made him feel more comfortable about coming forward with this book, even though obviously it's been in the works for some times. The publication of it was moved up. Okay, it was supposed to be published months later. I'm not sure. I can't remember how many more months later, but it was moved up. Initially, I thought that was because of this whole, impeachment process that's going to sell more books with the whistleblower and all that. And that very well may be, but it was moved up. The announcement of this book came after. It looks as though there's going to be no indictment against him, even though the Department of Justice basically brought it to a grand jury. And typically, a grand jury, if they do decide to indict, an announcement comes. And an announcement never came. And I think his lawyers were actually complaining that McCabe has the right to know whether or not the grand jury delivered an indictment. But it seems as though they didn't. And then the announcement of this book, which was, again, not to belabor the point, was moved up. So, it says, a passage from a warning set to be published November 19th were provided to Huffington Post by a source who did so only on the condition that their anonymity be protected and that the passages from the book would not be quoted from directly. While discussions of invoking the 25th Amendment were never formalized, the idea that Vice President could go along with the cabinet-backed plan to remove the president was certain to raise the ire of Trump, who is intolerant of dissent. Huffington Post has not confirmed Pence's position on the invocation of the 25th Amendment, but is publishing details from a warning because the book is highly newsworthy, and the Department of Justice has gone so far as to warn the author that he or she may be subject to non-disclosure agreements The discussion about invoking the 25th Amendment took place, according to the book, soon after FBI Director James Comey was fired by the President. Comey's firing, which was done without any warning or consultation with Congress, led to the appointment of special counsel. The controversy around the firing, blah, blah, blah. That's basically the whole thing. They don't get any specifics. Since Trump was sworn in as president in January 2017, Pence has endeavored to be a loyal soldier, but Trump has a high capacity for remembering disloyalty. So then, the author of this book was also the author of the September 18th New York Times op-ed piece about I am part of the resistance. I went back and looked at that as well. There's just a few references. Like I said in my previous video, I had said that I thought, initially I thought this was Nikki Haley because there's references to, I think, to McCain, and Lindsey Graham is a good friend of McCain, and Lindsey Graham is the senator of South Carolina. Nikki Haley is the former governor of South Carolina. But I think it was just meant to look that way. But in this, in fact, here it says, or even that his party might well lose the House to opposition hell-bent on his downfall. But his party, that's not somebody from his own party who wrote this op-ed. It's somebody who's basically sort of considers themselves to be neutral, even though he's not. He even references that they're not part of not the popular resistance, quote, of the left, and then he also says in here, senior officials will privately admit their daily disbelief at the commander-in-chief's comments and actions. It just gives me the impression after rereading this that it's somebody that maybe is part of the Trump administration, but is not somebody that works in the White House. It's somebody that is basically getting a lot of these anecdotes secondhand. People have said, that the author of this op-ed claimed to be, a current employee. But I believe, obviously there's probably lies in here to protect his own identity, his or her own identity. And also, just think about it, it would make sense to not write this until you were basically not employed by, employed by the government anymore. So, the other thing that the DOJ, I think the new deputy attorney general or somebody at the high level official at the DOJ wrote a letter to the publisher, basically wanting to review, wanting to make sure that this person isn't violating any non-disclosure agreements, wanting to know what agency that they worked for and during what times, etc. Because you have to get clearance to write certain books and publish certain information. And but that is the Department of Justice. McCabe was an employee of the Department of Justice, definitely. And as I noted in my previous video, that he actually announced, he wrote another book called The Threat or something like that, and he signed that book deal in September of 2018, which is just a few weeks after that op-ed was written, And what I was saying, that he could have had two dual book deals at the same time, because it is with a different publisher, different agents, in order to basically mask that he was writing this book, anonymously. But also, it could be that he was actually getting approval, unknown to the Department of Justice for certain things that might end up in this book that it looked as though was for his previous book, So to give himself cover that way legally, to limit his legal liability for publishing, I don't know. As I noted in my previous video, the same agents that represented James Comey represented the author of this book anonymous. So, dude, I think it's McCabe. I really do, man. And that's pretty much the story there. Dude. The same two agents are from Javelin is the agency, and the agents Matt Latimer and Keith Urban were both James Comey's agents for his book, are the same agents for this book, The Anonymous. Because and the publisher basically said they're not, they're going to publish the book and they're not going to release his identity. They have an obligation to, they made a deal for that. And basically any violation of non-disclosure problems, they basically put that to the author, and that it's not their responsibility. That's the responsibility of the author. And that is the story there, dude. Like I said, I think it's McCabe. I do. I could be wrong. I think I got this one right, though. I do. All right, thanks for watching my videos. Please subscribe to my channel. Give me a like down below. I'll see you in the next video. Warriors, come out to play. Later, man.